Pastor Susie, I'm landing the plane with you today, and we can go another 12 hours. We're going to be great. 12 hours to Pastor Susie is nothing. I'm like showing my age. I'm falling apart, and Pastor Susie's like 12 hours. Hold my beer,
Ain't
man.
nothing,
Come on.
brother.
But no, looking forward to this conversation. Charlie, setting the stage for you here, Pastor Susie. So I'm trying to figure this out. Um, Talking about people that have done digital church the longest, and so
Mm.
Angela Craig started Pursuit Church Live in 2016, Facebook Church. DJ Soto was 2016 as well with VR Church, VR MMO Church. Daniel Herron started Robloxian Christians back in 2014. When did you actually start God Squad? Where are you? Are you the grandfather? Are you like a fun uncle? Like how long you been doing God
So
Squad, now XP Church?
I'm somewhere in there. I started my personal stream broadcast in 2014, but the church didn't launch until March 2016. So I'm
Okay.
somewhere trickled. Seems like there was a few that happened in 2016.
Yeah, I don't know what was happening culturally, but evidently the pendulum shifted. I
That was the
was
year, man.
Yeah, 2016, I was banging my head against the wall, trying to cast vision for some
Yeah,
organizations to see what some of what you're doing. But you've been a pioneer in this space, doing it differently. Charlie XP Church, now at the time God Squad, is a video. A video gamer church. I guess is that. I tell you what,
oh, yeah,
and
absolutely.
even some things we haven't even talked since the XP shift. Maybe Susie, set up here a little bit here, what you're doing with the XP Church, like what the vision and the heart behind it is.
Absolutely. So really it kind of goes back 10 years ago when I first started my broadcast. So for those that aren't familiar with a website called twitch.tv, it means you're probably not watching on Twitch right now. You're probably on another platform. But twitch.tv for the most part is a video game platform. Sure, you can live stream really anything, but it's majorly a video game platform. And so 10 years ago when I stumbled on it, I just started streaming and telling people about Jesus while I'd play video games. And really the whole reason we started our church was back then we were evangelizing to so many people and wanted them to take a next step in their faith and getting them plugged into a local church. And these were gamers. It's very popular in the gaming community for people to be atheist, have a negative experience with church, never been to church, or have no intentions of ever going into a physical church. And I would encourage people like, hey, if you just gave your life to follow Christ, go to church. And unfortunately, we were having more horror stories than testimonies. We were having more stories of people walking in with a video game shirt with the dragon on it, whatever, and unfortunately literally being told to change their clothes before they would be allowed to return. And so it just reached a point where it's acknowledged like there's such a problem here. Gamers can't find a place to go to church. So really, like the reason we launched our church was really just to be a solution to that problem. Like if
Mm.
gamers can't find a place to go to church, I will start one for them. And so it wasn't even really the mission when I started streaming, but it just became such a heavy need that we just decided we had to make a fully digital expression specifically targeting gamers, because obviously there's so many benefits of online church and you guys have been hearing about it for 12 hours, but especially for gamers, because for us, like the online world isn't a part of what we do. It's like all of what we do. It's like our whole lives. It's how we socialize. It's how we get our hobby. It's so gamers are just living their life online, even outside of social media. So having a church specifically targeted towards gamers with a population of 3 billion people for us was just absolutely a need and absolutely a no-brainer. And seeing as though no one else was doing it, we just were the crazy ones were like, well, I guess we will.
The opportunity is there. Jump all over it.
Absolutely.
And it's unfortunate. Like we can have an entire conversation centered around, man, 2016, 2015, like the church was missing this opportunity. You in your best intent were trying to send people to the physical church buildings, and there's just a vision to connect with that culture where they were, and instead trying to force them, into a different mold. It doesn't work. You did something different to reach someone different. You launched God Squad, which is now XP Church. I don't even know this. I'm about to ask a question. Usually asking questions like I know the answer. I've already heard. I actually haven't heard. Why did you launch XP? Why did you shift? What is there any differences, nuances? Like talk to me a little bit about the vision behind now XP Church.
Absolutely. So for those that don't know the context, when we started our church 2016, it was called God Squad Church. And obviously we had put some thought and some intentionality behind what that name was. But then really the journey to changing it now to XP Church started actually a little bit over 3 years ago. Funny enough, I know we had just Jay from Saddleback Church, and forgive me, I forget the actual individuals' names, but it was someone who worked in their missions department from Saddleback Church. They had attended one of Exponential, their event that they did in Tennessee. I went there to be a speaker at a God Squad Church booth, and this individual just stood behind the booth looking at the God Squad logo for probably about 20 minutes while I was speaking with other individuals. And when I was done talking with everyone, I walked up to him and he just asked me a question that just shook me to my core. And his question was simply this: does the name of your church speak the language of the people you're trying to reach? And I just had to humbly look at him and say, no. It was a name that we had come up with, and God Squad, it was commonly used, like somewhat commonly used, and we wanted to, connect God and his squad, and, Jesus loves people, and his whole theological gymnastics to come up with a clear name, with a clever name. But, as I've just studied things like marketing and wrestling with that question, I've just learned that clear is better than clever.
Mm-hmm.
And so having a word like XP, for a lot of you watching maybe not understand, but XP is short in the gamer world for experience. You do not need to explain what XP means to a single gamer on the entire planet. They just instantly know what it is. It is their language. It instantly connects with them and communicates, this is a place for me. This is a place where I can belong. We're not just a bunch of random pastors who thought, hey, we should tell gamers about Jesus. Like, XP Church is a church by gamers for gamers. And having the name of our church really kind of communicate that with like everything that we're doing, like making it really speak the language of the people we're trying to reach, I thought was important. And then obviously there's so many play on words you could do with that, as a church, we're helping gamers gain XP to level up in their faith. We want people to gain experience. We want people to experience God. And so we just really felt like the name XP just spoke the language so much better than God Squad Church. So we just full blown changed everything. And that has kind of been the new focus this year, that rebrand, is how can we make everything communicate? And we think this name does a much better job.
Yeah, I tell you what, if you, I know the individual out of Saddleback. If you DM me,
Okay.
I'll connect you to. He would love to hear that feedback from you.
Really?
And
Cool.
that, yes, yeah, he would. I know him moderately well. We've got a lot of mutual friends, and I know his involvement with that. I was at that conference with you. I think I was the reason you
Yeah, I
were at
remember.
that
Yeah.
conference. Yeah. And so it's like he would be really encouraged to hear that. Later
That would be great,
conversation.
because I'd like to say
Yeah.
thank you.
DM me like that. That is
Okay.
I didn't know that was the motivation, and
Yeah.
hearing that, like, that just excites me. So 2014 you started digital ministry.
Yes.
Did that for a couple years, launched the church. Um, how has receptiveness gone? Are people, like, I'm seeing more, Nerd Culture Ministry Summit. I'm seeing other digital missionaries kind of coming in. I'm seeing some organization structurally within the subculture of gaming centered around, some digital. We've been doing some work in that space. Others, Mark, Lux Digital Church, Bubba, the Nerd Culture guys. I can talk to those guys
Yeah.
all day long. Like, are you seeing headway where there's more understanding and acceptedness? Is it more dark? The mission field is huge and the workers are few. Like, what is the opportunities that you're seeing now where we are in 24, 25 versus when you got started?
Sure. So the receptiveness, I definitely think, has been on a journey that I do think is headed in a positive direction. So long story short, when I first started almost a decade ago, actually, cool thing, next week, December 9th, I will celebrate an entire decade. So praise God for that. But when I started back then, yeah, I did the typical, missionary route, travel to churches, try to get, meetings with pastors and get missionary support. And I'll be honest, especially in New England, I grew up in the Northeast. It was very unsuccessful. Yeah. The receptiveness was just not there. You get a lot of the, quoting the Apostle Paul, when I became a man, I put childish things behind me. And especially because it wasn't just online, but it was video game based. So that
Yeah.
was like, I was really I was really that weird guy that people didn't want to associate with. And so honestly, really hadn't made much headway. You've probably heard this until COVID. COVID was the time where all the people who told me I was an idiot were then asking for my help in 2020 on how to start theirs. And graciously, we did. We were able to help actually a lot of churches figure out live streaming things and stuff like that. And I do think that as we've, gone a little bit more post COVID, I do think receptivity is still on its way up. Like, I think we're being little by little making more progress, being accepted by the capital C global church. However, I could be wrong about my assessment, but I really think we're not going to probably make major headway in terms of the global church accepting what we do until we see the next generational shift in top end leadership.
Yeah.
I think when we see a bit of the millennial generation step into that world of being the decision makers, being the chairmen of the boards of churches, I think they are going to be the ones who are going to start really fighting for this idea of online ministry, nerd ministry, gaming ministry. Funny enough, I literally just got a speaking engagement I just booked in February for that exact same story for a pastor on staff who is next in line in the next 10 years to be lead pastor. And he is already inviting me to start bridging that gap. He's like, by the time I take over, I don't want to start the journey then. I want to start it now.
Yeah.
So that when I take over, the church is ready to just fully embrace the digital world. And so I think receptivity is up, but I definitely think we have a lot of headway to make for sure. That's why I'm so glad things like this exist, because little by little we're making progress.
Yeah, I love that. At a cultural level with individuals. Now, I'm pastors. It's a whole other conversation. Let's talk about Joe Blow gamer. The average gamer is a hardcore gamer. Somebody told me, maybe it was Mark, 34-year-old male, 37-year-old male. Like, are they hardcore? I don't. What I was doing at 37 wasn't games. Like, I didn't have time. I was kind of a workaholic. But are the culturally within the subculture gamer world that far better than I do, are people receptive to the idea of Christ as you're having these conversations, as you're engaging in those communities? Maybe talk to me a little bit about that process for you, about what it means to be a video game church, an XP church,
Sure.
in a gamer subculture.
Absolutely. Yeah. So average age of a hardcore gamer around 33 to 34. What surprises a lot of people is that the gaming community is actually about 52% men, 48% women. It's
I
almost
didn't know
half and
that.
half. Yeah, it's almost half and half. You just hear a lot more about the men because even in today's world, unfortunately, a lot of women can still really be harassed and made fun of
Yeah.
online. So it's just easier for them to just hide behind the anonymity of their screen name and just not acknowledge anything. But to your question of like, are gamers being receptive to Christ? It definitely is it's a difficult journey. There are really kind of two major rules in the online gaming space. Don't talk about politics. Don't talk about religion. No matter where you go in gaming, those are like the two. Everybody knows those two rules. Don't break them. Live streams, forums, Reddit posts. It's just the unspoken rules. Actually, in a lot of places, they actually are spoken. If I were to take you through, some of the biggest Twitch streamers in the world, they would all have that written in their rules of code of conduct, whatever it might be. So it's definitely difficult. However, what I have found as a pro is because of what we do by live streaming these gaming platforms, hanging out in Discords, I mean, we really are just creating it such an easy and accessible place for what I would call the spiritually curious. I don't think has there ever been a time where it's so easy for those that are literally laying in bed at night and a thought just pops into their mind about, hey man, is eternity actually real? Like, is there more to life than this? I don't think it's ever been easier for people to try to find and answer that question than when digital churches are going right to where the people are. So it definitely is an anti-God type community.
Yeah.
But I think we really are able to make a big difference because there's a lot of people who are, they're really almost in a positive way caught off guard that like, wow, the church is coming to where we're at. They're not just coming on here and like telling us that we're all bad people and need to change our ways. Like they're loving us, they're serving us, to providing value to us. And I think that is just really like toiling the ground for a lot of people, but it definitely is met with a lot of resistance at first, for sure.
But
Yeah.
wouldn't that be normal of anything else that's going on right now through that in any other environment of that? So really, it's all about community and building that relationship. And once you have that relationship, and then have the opportunity to be able to share and to be available when
Absolutely.
that moment comes.
So good. Um, it's empowering people like what we're talking about here with Susie to do something different, to reach these people where they are. You know, it's interesting. We talk about, but before you had Joey Santos church at a bar. He walked away from a physical church job to go work at a bar, to go be pastor at the bar. And you know, he did it because he's like, the church is reaching the church people, but the church isn't going to reach bar people. I got to go be in the bar culture to reach bar people. And to be honest, Susie, what you're doing, and other gamers, we had Pastor Coco on, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 hours ago. You know, not I love her, so great, her heart for that. But it's doing that something different to reach someone different. I cut you off. Go ahead, Susie.
No, I
Were you
didn't
going to
say
say
anything. No,
something? No, I thought you were
no,
you.
no.
I thought you. I
I was
cut
just
you off.
cheering
I'm
past
sorry.
Coco.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah,
Yeah.
Pastor Coco. That's beautiful. But you know what's interesting? Like I told her, um, you know, she's in Final Fantasy. Actually, I googled. There was a stat at some point, and this was back when I wrote the virtual reality church book, where it was like, it's Daniel Herron's texting me right now. How old am I? I'm 47 years old. Let's do that. By the way, fact check. Daniel Herron fact checked me. He launched Robloxing Christians in 2011. I think he was like 10 years old when he launched it, but dude was doing the Robloxian Christians in 2011. So, you know, talk about forward facing, dude. That guy, hats off, sir. Um, where I'm going, that way off topic. But that, I mean, this really gets down to this. Daniel Herron, great example. Let me use Daniel. Daniel was doing that. He had this great idea. Let me just. Did Daniel really understand discipleship? Did Daniel really understand anything? No, dude was 11, and the people that were
I commend
around
it.
him, you know, whatever. He saw his grandfather was a Presbyterian pastor, so he built Robloxian Christians to look like a Presbyterian church, and he operated as best he could to that. There wasn't an ecosystem of support centered around that. You know, and so, you know, years later, I stumble across him. We start having conversations. At first, I'm blown away that Daniel's, you know, doing what he's doing, and you know, I'll never forget the day when I have this conversation with Daniel, and he's like, Jeff, I'm thinking about shutting down Robloxian Christians, and I'm like, Daniel, you've reached 75,000 people through Robloxian Christians, you know, over the lifespan of this thing. Why are you shutting it down? And he's like, Jeff, I'm 22 years old. I can no longer like do it. It's kind of weird for a 22-year-old guy to be hanging out with like middle school kids. And so I got to let it go. And it's like, dude, I will. And I was so funny. I'm like, I will come. I'll coach your team. I'll do whatever. I will be like the chaperone. I don't care. But we got to figure out how to multiply you into other
Yeah.
people to do this. And the system had grown so complex working with Daniel that it was very difficult, and eventually we had to shut it down because it could not live on beyond him. And so but it's like, man, if we could figure out how to equip, how to train, how to multiply, how to mobilize, parallel that to Pastor Coco, the stuff that she's doing in Final Fantasy, like, you know, millions of people, seven-digit figures of people are active
Absolutely.
in Final Fantasy each month, and she's a literal missionary doing church in this space. I don't know how many other people are in Final Fantasy, but it's not that many. Let's draw a physical parallel. Millions of people live in New York City. There are two missionaries that exist in the entirety of New York City. Their names are Pastor Coco and Alina. That doesn't make much sense. Hey, you know what? We
No.
should probably send those people some help. How do we do that? What does it look like? How can we help multiply this? How can we train this? How can we help them start to train and equip some others to do this? This is the challenge of where we are. where we've got people like Susie who's doing what Susie's doing, who's got what Coco's doing, who's got what Daniel Heron was doing, and the others that are following in Minecraft and Robloxian towards that. But they're aging out. Some of the struggles and challenges are incredible. Susie, what are your 2 or 3 challenges that you're facing? Your biggest obstacles?
Biggest obstacles are honestly kind of what you just touched on, which has been a big thing the Lord's been putting on my heart. But I'll start with this one. I know it was one that Jay from Saddleback mentioned as well. Just honestly, the concept of capacity, especially when it comes to the amount of people that we can reach versus the amount of people that we can effectively disciple.
Yeah.
It has never been easier, especially with the idea of content. It's never been easier to get 50,000 views on a video and have 50,000 people find out about your church. It's never been easier. And the truth is, you can have 50,000 people stumble into your content, but are you effectively building a relationship with all those people? And the difficulty about what we're doing, especially in the gaming space, is, for example, I just put out a video of me the other day sitting at my table playing Magic the Gathering with some friends, set up a camera, just literally recorded me doing it for 1 minute, put a trending song audio on it, put an interesting caption, boom, 6,000 views. And then at the end of it, it's like, hey, if you're interested in checking out, boom, 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 come. And then all these gamers are like, I actually am interested in checking that out. Now 6,000 people have just been invited to be a part of our community. We can't serve those 6,000 people, right?
Yeah.
But like when you really figure out the formula of like identifying problems that the people you're reaching have, adding valuable solutions, the people will want to be a part. And then you just run into a capacity problem.
Yeah.
Of like, we can solve some of these people's problems. We just can't solve them all. And the rate at which people are even able to get saved, even if you had a super high conversion rate, the rate at which you're able to develop other disciples to then disciple them, you're able to reach people much quicker than you're able to effectively disciple someone along the journey to then delegate them to. And so you just run into a very large capacity problem, which is why I'm a firm believer, like some people are like, oh, we don't need multiple online churches because they can all fit in one. No, we need multiple because we all need to be reproducing more disciples so that together we can increase the army that's going out and reaching the world for Jesus. So capacity is definitely one of those. And then it goes with the second problem that really I identify now, especially look because I'm going in a year 11, completing 10 years. So I'm very much in if I could go back and start all over, what would I do? I'm very much in that, middle age, like looking back on my life kind of thing. And one of those things, like you mentioned, Jeff, is equipping leaders and really asking myself the question, what does it look like even for me in the next seasons of my life to focus less on me creating content that goes out and reaches thousands of people, but then really shifting my focus to then training, equipping, and discipling and reproducing other people that will go out and do that tenfold than maybe I ever could. So instead of me reaching 10,000 people, can I equip 10 people who will then go reach 100,000 people?
Yeah.
And that is kind of honestly where I really feel the Lord's kind of leading my heart in this next season. Not saying that I would give up what I'm doing or no longer make content, but that part of my content will probably shift towards really the coaching, the developing, the equipping. Because the reality is, after 10 years, having learned everything I've learned, which I'm really humbled by, if I keep it to myself, then I become the lid. I become the capacity of, we can't go to where we want to go because there's information that only this individual has and he's hoarded it to himself rather than spread it to the world so we can accomplish the mission. And so that's kind of where my heart and my mind is kind of shifting. Because you're right, Jeff. If we don't, for example, I don't want to run into a Robloxian Christians type scenario where whatever season of my life happens, now everything I've built is going to shut down. But creating sustainability to long live beyond me is really my goal. And, I'm still young, I'm 33, but really the next generation and creating a legacy beyond me is really where my mind is beginning to shift.
You're 33?
Yeah.
Wow. I would have pegged you much older. That's not a slam. That's not
is it
a
the hairline or okay.
Maybe it's the hairline. I want to.
Welcome to the Church Digital
Yeah,
streaming that we get the opportunity to have Jeff tell you,
yeah.
hey, you
You
look
look like an old man,
you look
man.
like an old
Listen,
man.
all I'm saying is 33 was the last year of Christ's life before he died. So you better make this one count. No, no, nothing
Absolutely.
implied there. So very, very cool. No, listen, it's interesting. We've had, so let's take Pastor Coco. So and I want to follow up with you on this afterwards. But Pastor Coco, she had capacity limitations. Workers are few, the mission field's plenty. We need help. You're saying that in your context. There's other issues, but those two and it's interesting. At some level, even what Ezekiel Fattori, who was on here earlier, this is a small, medium-sized church pastor in Miami Beach who's now experiencing 10,000 online viewers and trying to figure out how to disciple. That's some of the challenges that he's running into as well. What's the difference in all these? Small resources without a lot of, honestly, physical manpower. Who's
Yeah,
doing
that's a
this
huge one.
well? Who's doing this well? Jay Cranda from Saddleback Church.
Mm.
Not, and yes, Jay's incredible, but what Jay also has access to is Saddleback people and the ability to cast vision to Saddleback people to buy into it. Yes, Jay's vision and the vision of Saddleback, what they're doing digital online is phenomenal.
Absolutely.
And I don't want to downplay like his ability to pastor and shepherd and lead well in that space. But Jay's also has, Rick Warren feeding into the Saddleback, global network and the opportunity to give those people an opportunity to be on mission. If I were to look at you, and it's funny, I had this conversation the last time I was talking with a bunch of gamers. But man, I want to come alongside a physical church that's got a bunch of people that are on spiritual milk, and dang it, by now they should be eating solid food, and
Yeah.
challenging them. Hey, your mission field is XP Church. Like if pastor at a physical church, if you can't find a way for somebody to serve other than serving coffee or helping with the parking team, go hang out. Oh, get them to go hang out in gamer community and be the light of Christ where there's darkness. Yeah, okay, maybe serving coffee is important and parking ministry. And Lord knows, Charlie and I came from a production department, and the physical building has a purpose. But
Absolutely.
maybe there's some people that have a calling, a desire, and a need, an opportunity. They may not even understand it because this has been so ridiculed in the gamer community in physical space. But to start to activate and mobilize people, like that's what I want to figure out, bro. Is how, bro? Look at me. You're 33. That's not insulting. Like I want to help people figure out how and mobilize them to come alongside you and the Pastor Cocos and the others that are out there. Charlie, I've been talking for 12 hours plus. This is the overtime here with the Church Digital 12-hour live stream. What are you thinking as you're listening to this, Charlie?
So, serving on the board and having the opportunity to be able to look to see how do we ensure that this goes on and how do we continue to make sure that we're there to support you so as in support others that's good. It's interesting you said that you go back and you say to what's your biggest challenges, and that's equipping others to be able to go out and go beyond missions. That is exactly what we're all about here at the Church Digital, is really setting up the content and getting people ready to be able to go on mission. And it's not the pastors. It's the people like me. It's the people it's the volunteers. It's the folks that have a heart to serve, and but don't really know how. And I was thinking
Yeah.
about something you said, that so much as when you first started, and bless you that you continued on with that, with the struggles that there was, and there was some ups and downs you learned as you went along. But how about if somebody would have been there to help you, equip you through to that, to have also have been experienced, that's gone to say, hey, here, let me help you down this path, what the difference is. And that's where the church.digital is at right today. We've changed our focus. We've changed quite a bit of where we're gone. We're moved to equipping others to be able to go out on mission. And so, but it's interesting. One of the things that you did not say, and so I always have the opportunity to be able to share this with others is that part of the capacity also too is the funding to be able to help others to be able to do that, and it's it's Saddleback. He said, well, what's easier, to make a call 5 people that are millionaires and be able to have it done, or to have, to do some things, and have volunteers to be able to go to those things. And we joked about, you have 5 of those that we can call ourselves. Today we were looking at raising $20,000, and we're ending up today with about $7,600. Now, $7,600 is going to keep us going for probably about 2 or 3 months through that. But after those 2 or 3 months, it's going to be hard as we go through this. So I ask, as we were wrapping up the day, and I know that we're at time, and Jeff, thank you again for
Of
doing
course.
this. But we also, as a board, realize, just like you and just like some of the other folks, it's not all about Jeff. We're trying to make sure that we're equipping people to be able to continue to serve and to go when Jeff is not able to do that, and it has to be who's going to be next up. So we look at football games, and we look at the quarterback and say, okay, who's next? Who's up? Who's up next? We need to make sure that this movement and what we have going on is we're ready for who's next to lead us and continue to go through those things. Now, we couldn't do that today without Jeff, to be very, let me just be very, 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 very clear. But we as a board, one of the questions is, what's our responsibility? Our responsibility is for the accountability to make sure that the movement continues forward. And so, with that, as we're starting to wrap up, thank you for being with us today. Thank you, Jeff, for your amazing work that you do each and every day through that. For your family who sacrifices every day to be able to continue to be able to do what you do through that, whether it be early mornings, late nights, and on weekends throughout. Uh, but I'm going to just end up with this. Is okay, Jeff, to ask everyone to now really consider to be partnering with us, to consider what's the value of us reaching lost souls out there. What's that value, and what does that mean? That means coming side by side with us. Some of us are not going to be able to have the time to volunteer to be able to do it, and that may not be our calling. But we do have ability to be able to join in and partner by helping support us and helping support us sending missionaries out into probably the most darkest of places. It's interesting, we were talking the other day about, it's interesting how they call the internet the dark web.
Mm.
And yet, aren't we called to be the light? So why shouldn't we be the light in the dark? And let us do, the way we do that is by sending missionaries to be that light out there, equipping the missionaries to go out and do that. Now, in order to do that, we need support, and we need the financial support to do that. So I would hope that as we're wrapping up through this today, we're still the church.digital/give page will still continue to be available. And so please, as Giving Tuesday comes to an end, still be there to be able to consider to be part of our journey and to be our partner with us.
Yeah.
Jeff, thank you again. I don't know if you have any closing comments on that.
No, I do. Thank you, Charlie, for that. I appreciate that, heartfelt, man. I love Charlie. Charlie, I wanted to interview you in this, and with all the tech checks and everything, it's been such a mashup here at the end. We'll do a stream or a podcast here at some point to dig into that. Let me transition back. Susie, man, thanks for coming on. I want to get
Of
you and
course, thank you
Coco
for having me.
together. And I want to really get into that. So I'll DM you separately, and I want to get you connected to the Saddleback guy. Remind me. I'll be
Oh yeah, I'll DM him right
unconscious.
when this is over. Yep.
Yeah. Do that. Thank you, my friend, and we'll talk soon. And actually, Susie, we're gonna wrap up with you. Keep Charlie on after hours. I want to. I'm kidding. No, it's great. But thanks, friend. I'm gonna let go of you. Thanks, Susie. See you
Sounds
later.
good. Thanks so much, everyone. God bless.